Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Taco Rick channel. In today's video, I have a really exciting project. We're gonna be installing Diode Dynamics 32-inch light bar kit for the Toyota Tacoma. The stealth light bar kit. So I have the light bar itself here from Diode Dynamics. This thing was actually on back order for like the longest time due to COVID and all that. But this comes with the brackets and everything for a no drill, easy bolt-on installation for this light bar. And it goes right here, cleanly behind your grill. So it's a stealth light bar. You don't have to modify anything on your Toyota Tacoma, any of the third gens. This kit fits. Let's see what all is in the kit and then let's get started. Everything right here on top of the road case is what is in the Diode Dynamics kit with two little additional things. One, got my Punisher skull, red line, American flag over there that's going to go on the back of the Tacoma. Really excited to put that on there. It fits the theme really well. That's not really relevant to the actual install, but what is relevant is this button right here. So I bought an OEM button right here. It actually says LED bar on it, so I wanted to use this for the actual button to activate and deactivate the light bar instead of the cheap little tiny button that comes in the kit. So now in the actual kit itself, we have the wiring harness itself right here that I've already opened. We have a variety of nuts and bolts that we're going to be using. We have the actual brackets themselves right here. They are fully powder coated black brackets from Diode Dynamics for the Tacoma 3rd gens. So this is one of the brackets. There is another one in here as well. So there is the other bracket. Some more nuts and bolts and some really nice, easy to read instructions on how to install the light bar, as well as they have a full video on YouTube if you want to go watch their video on how to install it on your Tacoma as well. But really nice, easy to follow instructions from Diode Dynamics. Nice to have. Then we have the piece de resistance, the 32-inch light bar from Diode Dynamics, their 30 stage series. So we can open that up right here. This is a slim light bar. We have some other additional goodies here. It looks like some additional brackets here that we will probably not be using because we have the brackets that come with the kit for the actual truck. Then we can actually pull the light bar itself out of the box. There is another wire here if you are not probably using the wiring harness. This is another wire that you can use. And there you go, the stealth light bar. This light bar is actually designed perfectly to fit behind the grill, so I am super excited to be able to use this. Like I mentioned, Diode Dynamics does a great job with the actual instructions as well as the YouTube video and the wiring diagram right here. But to make things a little bit easier for you guys to see, in my video I've kind of laid out the wire on the ground here inside of my second garage to go through how basically this is all wired up. So up front here in the wiring harness, we have the plug that plugs into the actual light bar. So right here, plugs in right here. All good to go, plug and play. Then this comes up to our relay switch right here. So this relay is going to get mounted somewhere in the engine bay, and then these are our two terminals that connect to our battery. So red is our positive, yellow is our negative. Those are going to connect to our battery. The relay also goes up here to your cab. So we got to weave this wire into the actual cab itself. And then there's a switch right here that controls the actual light bar to turn it on and off. Now, like I said, I don't want to use this actual switch right here. So what I did was buy an OEM style switch that will mount right into the dash itself. So there are some blanks on the dash. And in particular to my truck, the spare slot is right here. So this is the spare slot that I'm going to be popping out and popping in my little OEM style light bar switch. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the truck around in the garage so that we can get working on installing the light bar. With the hood popped, we can see the engine in all its glory, as well as the cold air intake, the K&N cold air intake that I installed in the last video. Go check out that video if you haven't already. But seeming to be just about every single project that you want to do in terms of the front end of this truck, we need to start by removing the grill. And thankfully, that is a very simple process. There are two 10mm bolts right here. So one here, and then there are 6 clips. There's a clip right here, a clip right here, and then there are 4 clips down here in this little channel below. I have like hundreds of videos now. Well, not hundreds, but just about every single little install that I've done on the front end of this truck has involved removing the grill. So if you need more details on how to remove the grill, go check out some of the other videos like the pro grill, the headlights, the tinting. I've done it all. But gonna remove the grill now, and I will show you guys how we mount up the light bar. With the grill completely removed, there are 2 more things we need to remove before we can start bolting in our brackets. Well, unbolting and rebolting. I'll show you that in a second. We need to remove both of these little plastic sort of splash guards in the engine. They're held in by just one plastic clip. There's one right here holding this one in, and there's one holding this one in. So very easy to take these out. Just take a little flat nose screwdriver, pop the clip out, and then this whole thing rotates towards the center of the engine. You might hear some snapping, but that's all it is, and it pops right out. Same thing on the other side here. Just use a little flat nose screwdriver here to remove that clip. Comes out very easily, and then we rotate it towards the inside and pops out. So with that out of the way now, I can show you where we're gonna be mounting up our brackets. I do want to point out we're not mounting the light bar into the actual grill itself. That grill, we're actually mounting it in this little slot channel right here below the grill. So that's where the light bar is going to sit, is behind here. Now with our brackets right here, they are going to be going and attaching to the crash bar. So right down there, I don't know how well you can see it, but there are 2 bolts. You can see it right there. We're going to be undoing both of those bolts and bolting in this bracket right to those 2 bolts. So the bracket bolts over there and then comes up here to where the light bar will mount up right in front of the grill slot right there. So it mounts in right here, and this is the same thing on the other side. So we use the same 2 bolts on the outside of this one to secure the other bracket, that bracket being right here. So that bracket will mount right up against this side like so. So undo the bolts, mount that bracket right there, undo the bolts on this side, mount that bracket right there, and we're gonna loosely mount them at first, and then we will mount the actual light bar itself, and then we'll finish tightening down everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew the nuts that are holding the crash bar on both sides, both of them, and then put the bracket on and re-secure them. I'm gonna do that with this 14mm deep socket. You need a deep socket to actually get to these. On both sides, mount up those brackets loosely, and then we'll move on to actually mounting the light bar. So now it's time to actually mount the light bar itself. And I wanted to point out one thing, and that is the orientation of the light bar. The cable will be on the passenger side. And the reason for that, over here on the driver's side, you'll see this little tiny port with some holes here. And that is basically a relief valve that lets moisture escape out of the light if any gets inside of it. So you want that on the bottom to be able to drain easily. So I can't really show it, but basically I'm gonna be putting the light bar into the bracket itself and using the included bolts to bolt it in like so. So they're gonna bolt right into factory studs right here on the light bar, and I'm gonna mount it up right down below. Alright, not gonna lie, there's not much room to get your hands around and actually screw in the actual bolt itself. According to their instructions, that's what you're supposed to do too. Personally, I probably would have mounted the brackets. Well, I guess you can't really fit the brackets down in. That's the hard part of this kit. You can't mount the brackets to it before you put the light bar in. It's hard to finagle the bolts in there. That's about all I can get. But I'm gonna go ahead and tighten back down the crash bar bolts that are holding the bottom of the bracket, and then I'll actually mess around with adjusting the placement of the light bar itself. So now that we have the light bar mounted inside the grill itself, or the bottom portion of the grill, it's time to move on to wiring. Probably the least fun part in this whole entire process. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the wiring, and I'm pretty much just gonna show you how it's all ran after I finish it, because showing you as I go is kind of hard to do, but stay tuned. So I got so far into wiring that I forgot to show you guys how you actually get this off. So I can put it kind of back where it goes. But there are 3 10mm bolts, one here, one right down here, and one there. You take those 3 10mm bolts out, and then this whole entire thing pops off via the clip. So you just pull on it, and you can pop it all off. Now I want to remove that little blank right there. That is easy to do. It's just clamped in right here on the back side. So you just undo this clamp right here, and pops right out. So now we take the new switch right here and we basically slide it into that slot. And now we have our light bar button. Easy to go, ready to go. Now the wiring harness is on this side, actually plugs into the back of the button very easily. So that way we can wire up all of these wires to the correct wires that we need. On the downside though, that is where I'm gonna have to stop today's progress because I blew the 30 amp fuse that is in this kit. So inside of the fuse cabinet right here that hooks up to the battery, there's a 30 amp fuse. And in the process of trying to see if the light bar worked and my wiring was right, I plugged in the wrong connectors to the back of this switch right here and popped that fuse. I do not have a spare fuse on me and it is like 9:30 at night. So I'm gonna have to catch back up with you guys tomorrow when I get that fuse to be able to finish this project. So that's where we're gonna end it, and I will see you guys tomorrow when we pick up with the current install. Welcome to day 2 for you guys. This is really like day 4. It's been extremely hard. Things have not been aligning for me to be able to finish this installation. I had a storm roll through, it knocked my power out, and then I had another storm roll through which locked me out of this garage because it tripped the breaker. Long story short, I'm finally back to film the video. So with the hood pop, let me go ahead and take the grill off and walk you through basically what I've done so far, which you guys are pretty much up to date on, but show you guys how the wiring is ran, and then we'll get on to basically where we're finalizing stuff right now, which is basically finalizing where the wiring's at and mounting in the OEM switch in the inside of the Tacoma. As you saw the other day, I've already gone ahead and mounted the light bar. Pretty much the easiest part of this whole entire install. The hard part is the wiring. So what I've done is the wiring harness comes out of the light bar over here, right here, back here. I've run it in this channel right here, zip tying it along the way. We're gonna cut off these excess pieces. It ties into the wiring harness right here. That wiring harness then runs up to the relay, which I mounted right here above the battery and the fuse box. I basically unscrewed this bolt right here and screwed in the relay right here. Then I took the positive lead for the wiring harness and attached it to the positive lead on the battery. And then the ground I attached over here to the main ground bolt to the actual truck itself. So unscrewed this bolt and put the ground screw in there. Now, one of the reasons why I had to stop the install the other day was because I blew the fuse. This fuse right here, it is a 30 amp fuse, and the reason I blew it was because I had my wires backwards inside the truck for the switch. Conveniently down here there is a grommet that was available to be able to run the wire into the cab. So basically I took that grommet out, put a hole in it, and ran the wire into the cab of the truck. That wire comes in up there from the firewall. That grommet brings the wire in right up there, kind of right beside where the brake pedal attaches. And I brought that down here, which is kind of where we're at in terms of steps of this install. Now, what I had backwards was this wiring right here. So I did not have the wiring in the current order that it is right here, with the black wire going to the gold terminal, and there are 2 silver terminals. One is white and one is blue. Yes, we're not going to be using this switch, but I wanted to test it, and I did not have this wiring in this order because I had to unplug the switch to be able to run the wire through the grommet, and I didn't take a picture of what the order was, hooked it up in the wrong order, and blew the fuse, which was the only fuse I had. Thankfully though, those 30 amp fuses are relatively cheap and you can pick them up at just about any auto parts store, or Walmart sells them too. So it wasn't a big deal. It was just a setback because it was like 9 o'clock at night and every store was closed. So went and got a new one the next day, and then the electricity and all that happened, which brings us to the day though. Got a new fuse. The fuse is in. I have since corrected the wiring, so if you guys want to take a mental reference right here, if you want to use this switch, the black goes on the gold terminal, the white one goes to the middle terminal, and the blue one goes to the outside terminal. I'm pretty sure that Diode Dynamics has something online that says this, but in the user instructions, this wire diagram right here is not given. So a little bit of a downside, but figured it out. And now if I turn on the switch, the light bar turns on, and also the switch also glows red. But obviously we're going to be using the OEM installed switch that I put up here. So this is not included in the kit, but it definitely is something that I recommend getting because you can put it right here and you have a light bar on and off switch, which we're gonna be wiring up next. As you can see right there, the light bar is on and bright as day. We'll make adjustments to the angle and all that with the light bar here in a little bit, but it works. Now, since I did a poor job filming, well, I didn't even show it in the last one, I'm gonna show you guys how to remove the dash panel to get to where you install that switch. So first things first here, we need to move our seat all the way back, and I have a 2020, so I have the electric seat. You only find these on the 2020s. Let's go ahead and take the mat out so it just gets out of our way. Next, we need to remove this bottom rail piece right here. So this just easily pops up. You can normally just use your hand to pop it up. Just held in with a few clips. So now to remove this little quarter panel right here, first things first, we need to remove that thumb screw back there. It's just a little plastic thumb screw. Just unscrew it. There you go, right there. Now to remove this quarter panel, we need to pull kind of on an angle, so kind of like this. So I'm going to try and do this one-handed, but you kind of just pull back on a little bit of an angle and it pops right out. Nice and easy. And the reason we had to take all of that off was to get to this bolt right here. So this is one of 3 10mm bolts we need to remove to be able to take this bottom lower part of the dash off to access the switches right here. Also, kind of want to point out while I'm here, I have my Tacoma P3 mounted up right here on the front side of the dash. I have a whole video on this. This is my trailer brake controller, a Tacoma P3, no trailer connected, obviously. But that ties right into the factory wiring harness on my TRD off-road, which is back there. And this is the same for any of the TRD 3rd gen models. This will work with them, including the 2020. It's the same harness. Full video on that on my channel as well. But back to the 3 bolts. There's one here. There is another one right here. So this one is black. And there's another one right here. So the 2 black ones and this silver one right here. Those are the 3 we need to remove. 10mm. Let's get at it. So with those bolts removed, we're going to start to pull off this panel. And you want to start from the bottom. You just basically use your hand and pull. Give it a little bit of force and it will come off nice. Let me get you a little higher view here. So I'm basically pulling on all these areas and it'll pop off very easily. Might take a little bit of force in some areas. And that is the panel completely taken off, so we can access the back portion right here where the buttons are, as well as the front portion. So right here, I've already put the switch in. If you had the blank one there like I did, it basically just pops out like so, and then you basically just take the OEM switch that you're going to put in, this one, the light bar one, and you just slide it in through the front like so until it clicks into place like so. So now comes the part of wiring up the switch wiring harness to the wires for our light bar. So I have the wiring harness right here for the switch that we are going to be using, and if you notice, it has 4 wires and the one we're connecting to has 3. So if we go to the handy dandy wiring diagram for the push switch, we have the green wire is going to be our power in for the light bar, or our power in for this relay circuit. Red 1 is going to be the power out to activate the relay, which will turn on the actual light bar. Black is going to be our ground, and then red 2, that is going to be hooked into the power for our switches to turn on at night. So you know, all the switches in the dash and everything, and including in the door handles at night, they illuminate so that you can see them. So I need to figure out what wire that is, probably on one of these other switches right here so it's convenient, and I need to tie into that wire so that we have power to the switch so that it illuminates at night. So I'm probably going to tie into one of the switches right next to it, which is the inverter power for the outlet in my bed, or the auto headlights. So I'm going to use one of those, figure out what wire is the power for the LED that lights up the actual button itself, and tie that in there. As far as these wires go right here, the black is our ground, the white is the power in for the button, and then the blue is the power out for the relay. So that's kind of just a reference for how these wires go. So basically, we're going to be hooking the black up to the black on the button, we're going to hook the white up to the green, and we're going to hook the blue up to the red 1, and then red 2 we're going to tie into one of these. So I'm going to get to doing that, and then I'll show you guys the final product once it's wired up, and then we'll put everything back together. I do want to note that before you do this wiring, disconnect either the fuse or disconnect the power from the battery so that you do not electrocute yourself. Good point. Good tips, right? Good tips. So I've already disconnected the fuse. That way I don't have any live power right here when I'm hooking up this. So good tips. So as you can see there, I've done the connections that I said. Black to black, blue will go to the red, and white will go to the green. Now, if I'm correct on that, when I plug in the fuse won't blow, and 2, when we press the switch in, it should turn on the light bar. And then after that, I can go ahead and melt down this heat shrink wrap so that it is secure, and then also hook up the LED power for the button to illuminate after that. First things first, going to hook up the fuse. Good to go. Now when we push in on the button, we should get light. We got light. Off, on, off, on, off, on. As you can see, the button actually illuminates when you engage the button. The wire that we're hooking up is for that light glow so that at night you can see where the actual button is. So that is the next step in the wiring phase. Alright guys, so with my handy dandy voltmeter from Harbor Freight, I basically was trying out all the different wires to see the combinations through the trials of testing all the different wires. So a lot of these switches are 4 wires because they are relay switches where they have a power coming in, a power going out to the relay, a ground, and then the power to illuminate the LED or the switch itself. So through trials of all 4 wires on multiple different switches back here, I am basically with the truck on and then turning the lights on and off. I determined that the green wire on my 2020 Tacoma, so the green wire going to this switch, the green wire going to this switch, the green wire going to this switch, that is the power cable that powers the LEDs. So that is what turns on all of the dash lights. That is the cable that we need to tap into to illuminate our button so that it will light up when all the other dash lights come on. So this second red wire right here that we talked about in the wiring diagram, I'm now going to tie it into one of these green wires so that way the button should illuminate when the dash lights are on. I'm going to go ahead and wire that in now. We'll test it and make sure it's good to go. Also, I've already gone ahead and used a lighter and heated up all the shrink wrap so that all these wires are now completely good to go for the switch. You guys remember when I said this project's been interrupted like twice now because of storms? Yep, that just started. So, as long as it's just rain and I don't lose power, we'll be okay. Because if I lose power, you guys can't see what I'm doing. Back to the wiring. Basically, I'm stripping the wires now, gonna connect them all together and then test it. Alright, so I've tied the second red wire from the switch to the green wire here for this switch. So now, in theory, when I turn to the accessory power, this light should come on just like the other dash lights. So let me turn this light around so that way we can see the switches a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see, but all the other dash lights also have power as well. This light doesn't have power right now because I have that unplugged. So that light has power now. This light has power. So all the dash lights now will light up uniformly. And then when we push this in, it lights up even more to activate the light. We are done in terms of wiring. So that is basically how we wire up the OEM switch. Now I'm just going to tuck away all the wires. So just for repeat, if you buy this exact OEM switch that I have here, the LED light bar one that will be linked in the description down below, and you buy this exact same kit, you will need to connect the white wire to the green wire, the blue wire to red 1, the black wire to the black wire, and then red 2, you tie it into the green wire from one of these switches to make sure that it can illuminate. That is a bonus step. You don't necessarily have to do it. Your light bar will function if you don't connect that up at all. That's just if you want the dash lights to turn on, or if you want that light to turn on with the dash lights as well. So that is everything wired up on the inside here. I'm gonna now go ahead and kind of tuck the wires away, put everything back where it needs to go, and then move back into the engine bay, make sure that's all aligned and ready to go, and then the light bar install will be done. Alright, so the bottom dash piece is back in. I've tucked up all the wires as best as I can. So now we're gonna apply the quarter panel back over here, our bottom little runner skid plate here, and we'll be done. We'll be done on the inside. Gotta clean up the wiring in the engine bay, and that's it. Alright, so like I said, we're pretty much done. As you saw, the light bar turns on. It's mounted. I went ahead and cleaned up the wiring. We're good to go. But not sure if this is on the 2018, 2019, or the past models of the Tacoma, because I never really dove that far into my 2018. But these, if you remember these little side things we took out, these no longer fit because that light bar is taking up this bottom gap. So this one goes in right here. That light bar is right where this is right here. So I'm gonna take a knife and I'm gonna go ahead and cut out what I think is enough to be able to get it to fit. These are just little plastic shrouds. This is just designed to kind of just block the rain from getting into the kind of engine bay. They're just little extra things. You really don't need these. I don't even think they were on the past models of the Tacoma, to be honest, because I didn't see cutting these in Diode Dynamics direction, so I'm assuming the older models didn't have these. On the 2020 though, this does get in the way. Can you run it without it? Yes. But I'm gonna go ahead and try and cut it to be able to use these. So I'm gonna cut it, try and get it to work, and then whenever I get it to work, I'll show you guys how much you need to cut out. All right, so that was not as hard as what I thought it would be. These are loosely in place, but I have them cut. So I've cut it down there, I've cut it over here. So that way the plastic piece clears the brackets that come up for the light bar as well as the light bar itself. So let me pull these out and show you how much you need to cut on both sides. So it's a very similar cut on both sides. This is the driver's side, this is the passenger side. But basically this bottom connector right here, what you want to do is just square it off. So this piece was like this is the bottom half of it. You just kind of want to cut it off, square it off, take off this whole entire bottom piece down here. This was the first one I started on. I started by just cutting off this bottom piece, but need to cut off this side as well. So where this connector is, if you just square it off, and all you need is a utility knife, just something like this right here with a really sharp blade works. Oh, before I go ahead and put those on, let me once again remind you, wiring wise, the wire that comes out of the light bar is down here. I run it in this channel right here, zip tying it along the way. It connects into the wiring harness right here. The wiring harness runs up to the relay right here, mounted the relay right there. Coming out of the relay, we have the power connector, which goes to the battery right here. The ground goes to the ground right here. And then the other part of the relay, the output for the relay, goes into the cab and connected to the switch, which we've seen before. So now I'm gonna wrap up the front of this grill. As you can tell, it's raining outside, but I'm gonna wrap up the front of this grill, put it all together, and we're gonna go outside because it's nighttime and see how bright it is. Before we go do the drive, remember there's one last thing I needed to put on this, and that's the decal. Remember, this is the most important thing in this whole entire install, the decal. So put it on. I'm gonna put it on the driver's side up there. That looks awesome. All right, so now that we got the most important install done, let's go for a little quick drive and see how bright the light bar is. All right, so before we go anywhere, just kind of wanted to show you what it looks like in the dark. The switch, it is a little more royal blue than the other switches that are a little more light blue. Maybe the white version of the switch would match a little bit better, but honestly, it's in a pretty low visibility area from your passengers, so not a big deal, but it looks clean, looks OEM. Let's go for a test drive. All right, so as we go through this green light right here, you can kind of see what my standard lights are, which these are not my standard lights. These are my LED lights from Diode Dynamics. Both the headlights and the fog lights are LED from Diode Dynamics. It has been raining, like I mentioned, so it is a little hard to see, but this is the headlights only. This is with the fog lights. It's kind of hard to see with the roads being wet, but this is what they normally look like. Now, I'm gonna turn on the light bar for you. Look at that. That's light bar off, light bar on. Holy shit, you can see for days. This is my brights, so brights on, brights off. This is the light bar. Holy crap, that is bright. This is a good time to point out that it is 100% illegal to be driving with the light bar on. It is a off-road light bar, not for driving on the roads. I obviously am making sure that there is no oncoming traffic here before turning the light bar on, so that I do not absolutely just blind the shit out of someone. So here's an open road for you. I can't really see too far. Turn the light bar on. Holy crap, you can see everything, and it's so bright that you can't even really tell on the camera. So I'm gonna slow down here for a sec. Here is the open road. I'm coming kind of to a stop here to show you. There's a bridge right in front of me that you can't really see. Well, you can see that bridge pretty well now, because that light bar just lit up everything. Wow, that's impressive. One last time, open road, no light bar, light bar. No light bar, light bar. Lights off, light bar. That is so bright. So that was on-road brightness. So just wanted to show you guys kind of like a close-up of how ridiculously bright this is compared to my headlights. There it is. That's like open up FBI. Alrighty guys, that is all for the stealth light bar install from Diode Dynamics. If you guys want to check out the light bar yourself, the link will be in the description down below, as well as a link to the OEM switch that I use, as well as information on all the little things that you're going to need for this install, utility knives, etc. It's all going to be in the description down below, so check that out if you're interested in doing this. As you can see, it is extremely stealth. Like, you can't even tell that this thing has a light bar unless you look. And then when you want to activate the light bar, it is super bright. I love it. It's a great addition to the 2020 Tacoma TRD Off-Road Premium build. What do you guys want to see next? What do you guys want to see next? Leave it down in the comment section down below. And while you're at it, be sure to slap a like on this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all the brand new videos that are coming out. New videos every single week on this channel. Hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next one. Taco Rick out. Peace. That's so bright. That's so bright.